Hello and welcome to the Women's Football Show. I'm Cheryl Smith. I'm joined this week by Alison McConnell, Cara Henderson and Motherwell's Lucy Ronald. We've got Scottish Cup action to look back on as well as the kicking off of the split. But before we get into that, Lucy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. You're back from the ACL injury, 16 months out. How are you feeling just in terms of being back out on the pitch in your body and in your mind?
Yeah, it's good. It's been a long road. I think that's it coming up for 2 years now, and I feel like I'm only just sort of finding my feet back in the team. But it's good. I'm back. I'm enjoying my football again, and that was kind of my aim at the start of the season, was just to get back enjoying it, because I spent so long on the sidelines, which was really difficult.
Yeah, is it really when you're out on your own and you're doing things on your own, is it quite an isolating thing to go through?
Yeah, it is, and I think for a player in a part-time team, that is the reality of it. You do a lot of it on your own, and you know you are quite isolated, as much as like the club did everything they could in their power to make me feel involved, and my teammates were amazing. It's a really isolating injury, and I think you know you're away from it for so long. So to be back involved in the team environment this season, that's probably been massive for me mentally as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it, when these injuries happen, you often see like a social media post pops up where it's like, I'm positive, I'm back, I'm on the road to recovery, but it would be interesting to see the other side of that, where it's like the struggle in the days it's not so good. Could you give us an insight into just what your most lowest point was at that, when the journey, that end of that journey was so far away?
Yeah, I think, you know, when I actually done my ACL, like the timing of it was really, really unfortunate. We were less than a week away from playing both for Park and Hampden. So I think, you know, that the actual initial, that I found that really, really difficult. And then it's kind of knowing how long you're going to be out, and you've seen teammates go through it. You've obviously got the worry of the surgery and having to go through that. But I think for me it was kind of, I found it really difficult to watch the team. I found that really hard to go and watch on a Sunday. Like, I was obviously there to support the girls as much as they supported me, but there was times in my rehab where I'd be watching and I knew I was so far away from coming back, and that I found really, really difficult.
Did you have people to lean on during those times, or are you a person that sort of deals with that on your own?
Yeah, no, I definitely did. Like, my family are very supportive, and my friends and my teammates, like I can't, you know, big them up enough. And the staff at Motherwell as well were really good. But I think, you know, it's hard. I don't want to, like, you know, go on and on at people about it all the time. So I probably did deal with a lot of it myself. But, you know, I think my family were there through it all, and so were my friends, which I'm really lucky.
Yeah. And Cara, you went through something sort of similar recently, and we're talking about dealing with that from a part-time player's point of view,
Yeah.
full-time. What do you think sort of the difference in that?
I mean, I feel really bad pretending that it's anywhere near as bad as Lucy's, because it's only been 3 months and I'm absolutely choking to get back. But I think the part-time element of it's tough, because you come to work every single day, and you know we're sitting at a desk, or you're travelling a lot, and that's really not good for a knee injury as well. And you'll know this as well. Like, your life just isn't conducive to getting back in time and as fast as you can for your football. And it's that.
The priority. It's
no,
not like whereas if you're full time, your priority would be, let's get this injury addressed.
Exactly.
Whereas you've got another boss, you've got someone else who's like, well, your knee injury. How's your knee? Fine. Like, I need that done now.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And like, especially because I got injured just before Christmas, you're then away from the club, and the physios were great. They were sending me stuff. They were offering to see me as well, but you're away from it, and you're not actually getting the treatment that you need probably to get back in the time that you'd probably want to. And that's the tough thing. And as I said, I just think you're doing two things with your work and then your football that just don't really go together, because especially because we train at night, like, you're tired, you've been at work all day, you've probably not been foam rolling, stretching, getting the treatment you need, and then you also you end up feeling quite bad because you don't want to take up all the physio's time when you're there as well. So it is a really tough, you know, being injured is tough, but I do think, as you said, that the part-time element with it does make it doubly hard.
Yeah. We'll just look back on the weekend's action. We'll get to Motherwell, and you're bearing the scars of that game. So we'll get to that. First of all, though, Alison, Hearts, Glasgow City. They got there eventually, Glasgow City, extra time. Leanne Ross said after the game that it was their experience in the ranks that got them through. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think I saw actually when Hearts had taken the lead, I thought it might be quite an interesting afternoon, because I thought if Hearts were going to get a result, I thought they'd probably have to score first and then Glasgow City come back. And then I thought Hearts, I think they'll be kicking themselves, because I thought they were pretty dominant across the second period, a bit like last weekend against Rangers, had themselves in a really dominant position without just quite seeing it out. And I think that does come down to me, to experience, just not having the experience to manage a game, to see the result out and to see it through. But I think they'll be sore. I think going down to 10 players too just before extra time kicked in. I think at that point of the game you're tired, legs heavy, and then Glasgow City had the impetus. They had come back, a goal like in the 89th minute to bring them back. So they're the team with the momentum, with the bit between their teeth, and you've got a player down. So I think when you saw it going to extra time, you expected Glasgow City to prevail. But it's interesting now, because I think the signs are there for just such an intriguing finale to this season. When you think like everyone has still got to play, like Hearts again a couple of times, and play Hibs again a couple of times, I think it's set to be, I think, probably the most intriguing finale to the season to date that we've had.
Yeah, and just think the sending off, do you think that what happened after that shows that Hearts are just a couple of % below Hibs, Glasgow City and Celtic, even though they've done really well and they've got a lot of plaudits for it this season?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I think particularly the top three, I think, have a depth that no one else really has across squads. I think also Hibs and Hearts, there's been a slow move towards full-time football and professional football, but I think Glasgow City, Celtic and Rangers just have that wee edge because they're more established in that vein. I think what you've seen is both Edinburgh sides make up the gap a fair bit this term. I think they've definitely competed far more with Celtic Rangers, and what I will say is I think they'll both have a say in just where the league title goes.
Yeah, and so Glasgow City are in the final, they'll be at Hampden. It was quite interesting after the game. Leanne Ross said that she actually had never played at Hampden as a player, which we had to kind of check because the career that she's had and the length of it. But
she won 7 Scottish Cups as well, off the top of my head. I think she won. I think Glasgow City have won 9.
Is it just,
she won 7.
Sometimes the optics of Hampden don't look entirely great when it's not packed, but does it show a bit of growth that wasn't an option obviously then before in her time?
Yeah, I think it's all about optics. I think the fact that it's seen the semi-finals and the final are seen as showcase games, then I think the optics are that you want to be having them at the National Stadium to preserve the integrity of the competition, for the fact that this is a stage that we expect the male semi-final and final to be held. I do wonder if it would make sense to take it elsewhere in terms of generating a better atmosphere and bringing in numbers. If you're going to attract maybe a crowd of 6,000-7,000, I think that sounds fantastic. Maybe in Paisley, at St Mirren Stadium, at Firhill. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think these decisions probably have to be made in consultation with players. I think they probably have to be given their say about what they think, and maybe for some players, maybe the opportunity to play at Hampden may be a once in a career moment, and if you want it,
I think we're both thinking that I'd love to play at Hampden once, but I would say I thought Tynecastle was great last year because you're really close to the pitch at Tynecastle, and I thought the amount of fans that listen, you've still not got obviously all the stands full, but I thought with the people we had that day, Tynecastle was great, really great, and you're in the capital as well. So
would you prefer then a smaller venue with more fans, or the prestige you're going to Hampden?
Yeah, I think you're wanting to go to Hampden, aren't you? I don't know what you think. You're obviously headed to Hampden, so
yeah, Hampden for me personally has been like my biggest dream since I was a wee girl. So that for me is like the pinnacle, playing at Hampden.
And I think these are important. I think it's important to take that kind of feedback rather than people who are observers like me saying, no, I think it should be. I think probably players deserve the opportunity to have that say and make that call.
So in terms of Hearts, Cara, Eva Olachi said after the game she thought that football has been cruel to Hearts this season. Do you look at their results? Do you know where she's coming from?
I think the last 2 weeks you can see where she's coming from, that they've obviously put themselves in great positions against Rangers last week and Glasgow City yesterday, and they've not probably maybe got what they deserved out the games, but I think it's hard. They've made such great steps this year along with Hibs in terms of the fact that they're really challenging now. It's not a one-off result, it's that they're consistently putting in performances that the other teams are struggling to cope with. But you know, football is cruel. I think that we would both say that there's times when you can play really, really well. I think I mentioned it last week. There's been times against Celtic, Rangers, that we put in great performances, and unfortunately that one switch off or that one lapse in concentration, you're punished for it. And yesterday, obviously, they get to the 90th minute and you probably are thinking, right, this is it, you know, we're in a good position, and then you can't switch off against a team like Glasgow City. And I think that it's interesting about Leanne Ross talking about the experience, because they have got more experience in these crunch times. You know, they've had the players that have won them trophies in the past, and I think that's maybe probably the next step for Hearts and Hibs, is getting silverware in this new era that they seem to be in, and then building from there and seeing where they can go.
Yeah, Glasgow City, they're joined obviously by Rangers. It was 2-0 against Spartans eventually. It was a bit of a slog. They got there eventually. Jo Potter said that she thought just the talent they have in the squad just in the end was the difference in that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think they frustrated Rangers for big chunks of that game. I think it was the hour mark before they got the first goal. You know, again, Jo Potter having to turn to the bench to bring someone on to change it. I think Rangers have struggled at times in games this season against it's teams that sort of sit in and try and frustrate them. But I think, you know, you get a quarter final, it's about just get through, get yourself to the semi-final and take it from there.
Yeah, just the low block is something that she mentioned. And do you think?
I don't want to say low block, well, right? Because it just sounds a bit.
Sorry, I said it. I said it for you. But they've not really been coming out the traps recently. Do you think that's something that will concern her?
No, I think just now she'll just be quite happy. I think at the minute, I think there'll be an element of frustration that they dropped points last weekend, but there is ample time. Yeah, there's loads of games to be played. I think the split is where it becomes really intriguing, because you're looking at every game and thinking that teams around you can drop points, you can drop points. I think she'll be fairly relaxed. I think they have scored more goals than anyone else by a mile in this league. Their goal difference is better than everyone by a mile. I think she'll feel, you know, they've got a semi-final booked at Hampden. They've got a final booked at Park later this month when they play Hibs, and they're in a fairly strong position, 2 points off Glasgow City at the top. I think when you get to this neck of the season, you get to the business end of the season, she'll be thinking, this is the time to peak now. This is the time just to go and try and get the results that matter.
Yeah, flip from Rangers to Motherwell. As we said, you're bearing the scars of yesterday, but you got the result, and it's, as you just said there, it's the pinnacle to get to Hampden. How are you feeling now that you've got that in the diary?
Yeah, delighted. I think as a club and as a squad, we set out goals at the start of the season, and we've had a really positive season so far, and I think getting to Hampden was massive for us, and we didn't take that lightly, and it was a really difficult game yesterday, but just delighted to get it over the line and have that opportunity again that I missed out on the last time.
Yeah, so in terms of a player, when you're playing against a team from a lower league, is there a different mentality in terms of, you know, that like everyone loves a cup shock, unless you're on the end of it, obviously, but is there a different mentality going into a game like that because you're sort of expected to win? Do you change the way that you approach it?
I wouldn't say the mentality changed at all. I think it was just for us, like, to treat them with the respect that they deserve and not to underestimate them, and that's sort of was a clear message to us throughout the week. And you know, Boroughmuir Thistle have got a lot of experienced players that have played at a really, really high level. A lot of ex-Spartans players. So I think we knew what to expect, and it's cup as well, as you say. You know, they would definitely have looked at that draw and thought, you know, we can go and get something here, and quite rightly so. But yeah, I think overall it was just not to underestimate them, and I think we did that well.
The pain of missing out, as you mentioned, so it was about 2 weeks you missed out on. Last time, you've made it now. How much of a driver was that for you, just in terms of getting back there? And I suppose you've went from the low of that to the high of this now.
Yeah, it was massive. You know, I just wanted to get myself back to a level where I could potentially have that opportunity again, because it did really cut me deep when I missed out on it. And I'm really excited, but I think I've kind of said to everyone's buzzing for me, but I'm like, until I'm on that pitch, I'm like, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because I know in football how quickly things can change, and that happened to me the last time. So yeah, it's just I've got that in the back burner, and I'm really excited, but it's kind of like, I don't want to dwell on it. Yeah, I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah. I think as well we need to mention, because you both have played with each other and against each other. So Cara, I'll go to you. What's it like playing against Lucy?
Against her, she's a pain because she does not stop running, so like you feel like you're chasing her around the pitch. Plus as well, all my time playing with her, she's always been able to like nutmeg you or do something really annoying like that, and you'd be standing like, no. I remember at Glasgow Women training or something, she would always be able to do that. But playing against her, I said this earlier before we started, I'd always tell manager to get Lucy because I just think she's a brilliant player. And playing against her, you always know you're in for a good game because she comes across as like really nice, right? But see if you get on Lucy's bad side, by the way. Wild if you get on. But yeah, no, I think she's a great player. And from a friend's perspective, and to be fair, as obviously someone that plays football well, I'm delighted that she's back and doing so well for Motherwell.
That was mostly complimentary to you. A response to that?
No, like I think me and Cara both rate each other really highly, both as people and football players. I think playing against her, you know, Cara's athletic and fast and can score goals, and I think that's always sort of a threat. And I think whenever we play against her, I'll make sure to say that to the back line.
Is she vocal on the pitch?
Yeah, I would.
Gobby, exactly. I want to shut up. I know.
But no, I loved years playing with Cara. Like I think we complement each other really well as football players.
So when did you first get to know one another playing football? What age were you when you started?
Under 13s at Glasgow City, but we played in different teams because you were in the oranges and I was in the blacks.
Right. And so we even played against
each other at Glasgow City as well. But then we played together, and then I think at under 13s for a season.
Yeah.
And I went to Celtic and you stayed at Glasgow City. And we played against each other, and then we reunited at Glasgow Women a few, and we did well at Glasgow Women. That was a nice little. We got promoted with them. It was an interesting experience. I think we both value that experience of playing because we were younger, playing SWPL 2 against adults. So different from playing youth football, and you notice that really quickly because adults are just so much more streetwise. Like I feel like at youth football it's all quite pretty, and then you get against adults and it's not. You know, they'll trip you up before they let you go. But I thought that was a really valued time for us as well.
Yeah, it was probably really important for us to learn that side of the game, sort of dark arts of the game. That, you know, as you say, when we were at youth football, it was all very like
tiki taka. You know, it's nice.
Football, like when we played like Glasgow City and Celtic, like the games were. I mean, the football was great, but I think going and seeing the different side of the game for us at that stage at 17, 18 years old was really important.
Yeah. Sure. The top four, the final four, made up by Aberdeen, so they came from behind to St Johnstone. How good an achievement is that for Scott Booth?
Yeah, I think it's been quite a tough season for Aberdeen. They obviously parted ways with a manager at the start of the season, well, not long into the season, and then Scott Booth, who had gone up to Glasgow City, then heading back up to Aberdeen to take over. And I think results have been quite challenging for them. I think they'll fancy that they maybe want to finish top of that bottom half of the split. I think they'll have that in their sights, and I think obviously anyone who gets to the semi-final of the Scottish Cup starts to think they've got a chance. You know, you need a wee bit of luck in a cup, but you never know what can happen or who you draw. The draw, of course, takes place later today. Well, it takes place tonight before the Livingston and St Johnstone game. They'll find out who exactly they're up against, but I think anyone who gets to this stage will fancy their chances.
Yep, and as Alison alluded to, the split is upon us now. You experienced that last season in the top half. Do you enjoy this part of the season?
Yeah, I think I probably was happier last year and the year before when we were in the top six. But yeah, I think it's an interesting time. I think really this year is more interesting with, obviously, in the top half you've got a really exciting title race, but the 3-place relegation means that, I think before you've always kind of known who's going to go down, and it's been a case of maybe the playoff that you're wanting to avoid. But with 3 teams going straight down, you've everybody, you know, you've got to make sure you're doing the business. And for the teams that are at the bottom at the moment, there's everything to play for them in every single game. So it makes it really interesting. And I think we spoke last week, from our point of view, it's about having as strong of a finish as possible.
Yeah, in your side, Aaron, no shade, Aaron, the top 6. How do you approach those games? Because you're coming up against, obviously, the best teams in the country for this last part of the season.
Yeah, I think, you know, we know the challenge that's ahead of us. That's no secret. But you know, I think for us as players, like this is the platform we've been crying out for the last couple of seasons, to go and test ourselves against the best players, the best teams. Yeah, we know it's going to be really, really difficult, but it's probably just trying to take the most we can and be really, really disciplined in our performances, and, you know, try and pick up points if we can. I think, you know, the level of the top 5 teams this season has been amazing for the league and the way that the league's going. But you know, for us to be amongst those teams is a real honour, and yeah, we're just delighted to be there.
Do you take a wee bit of pleasure out of the fact that you will have a say on actually who wins the title and who finishes second and third because you're playing against them?
Yeah, I think so. You know, we don't want to be there just to make up the numbers either. You know, as I say, we do want to go and test ourselves against these teams, and you know, this season we've picked up a point against Hearts, so we were close to Glasgow City at the start of the season. So I think it's just trying to get closer to these teams, and yeah.
That's all we've got time for today. Thank you to Alison, Cara and to Lucy, and thank you to you for watching.